all these experiences. I have people like, oh, wow, you wrote that really well. What are you, a writer? Oh, well, actually, yeah, I started doing that, like 8 years ago. So you start, developing competence and capability. And I was able to just feed that into my new teaching career.
Hello, you are listening to the Late Bloomer Living podcast, where we are reimagining and redefining what it means to be in midlife, where we are gathering energy, momentum, and excitement for our next chapter via candid conversations with other midlifers about their own pivots, pitfalls, and triumphs. I'm Yvonne Marchese, your host, and I'm so happy you're here. I have a question for you. Do you dread change? Do you avoid it? Or do you love it? Do you seek it? I think for me, it depends on what sort of change we're talking about. I like a change of scenery in my days. I like variety. I like reading new books, listening to new podcasts, and getting new ideas. Frankly, I get a little stir-crazy sitting in the same spot all day. But the kind of change I don't have any control over, I have to admit, I'm not a fan. For instance, I don't like technology updates on my phone or my computer. I just learned the damn shortcut for turning my Wi-Fi on and off, for crying out loud. Now there's a new way to do that? I really hate it when an unexpected expense pops up, especially when I realize I should have anticipated that expense. When will I learn? Also, my older child is going to be a senior in high school this year. We're starting to visit colleges, and it won't be long before he's out of the house and we don't see him every day. I'm excited for him. I know it's everything we've been working towards, but I like seeing him every day. I like spending time with him, and I expect I'll probably be a hot mess when he leaves. So I'm already feeling the stress in anticipation. Here's the thing. Change happens. We can fight it or we can embrace it. As Tim Ferriss once said, people would rather be unhappy than uncertain. Really? Yeah, it's true. There's science to back it up. It's just the way our brain is wired. When the brain perceives uncertainty, it activates the fight or flight response as if we were faced with an actual life-threatening concern. Your brain is just trying to keep you safe. But sometimes your brain is wrong, and there is no actual threat. My son leaving for college is not an actual threat to my well-being, and neither are the incessant technology updates. But those changes upset my routine and maybe trigger me to look at myself with less than kind eyes. I might tell myself, I'm not good at learning new technology, and feel a little stupid. And once my kids move out, what will I do with myself? What's my purpose? My guest today is Julie Hawley. She's a master of the pivot. She started off her career as a public school teacher after graduating early from college, and she thought she had it all figured out and was on her way to a successful life. Until life threw some smackdowns her way, as she puts it. She pivoted to a real estate career for some time before deciding that she really wanted to pursue a childhood dream. Allowing herself to pivot and change and follow her instincts has prepared her for the next leg of her journey, in which she's combined teaching, writing, and real estate investing into a new mission that's filling her with energy and purpose. I'm so excited for you to meet her. But before we jump into the conversation with Julie, I just want to take a minute to thank those of you who have taken the time to leave a rating or a review. Reviews and ratings help so much to get the podcast out to more people, and that's why the podcast continues to grow. Thank you so much. All right, without further ado, here's Julie Hawley. Let's go. Hey, Julie, thank you so much for being here with me.
Oh, Yvonne, I've been so excited. This is one of those things, we all know that sometimes we find things on our calendar that well, we're not super excited about, but we know we need to do it. This is something that's been on my calendar that I've been looking forward to. I love your podcast. You have amazing guests and it's very insightful.
Thank you. I think I have amazing guests too, and that would include you. I'm very glad you're here today. Thank you. Thank you. Gosh, man, I always like to say how I met people. And one of the guests that is currently playing right now as we speak is Mike Morawski. And he is the one who introduced me to you. Your episode will end up playing a little bit further on down the line. Let's see, today's June 1st. Can you believe?
Happy June Day. I don't know if it's an actual day, but I'm just going to make it it. It is now. It's the thing. Everybody get the program. June 1st, June Day.
And I was
celebrating.
Oh my gosh. When I got on the phone with you after he introduced us, and I was like, I owe Mike like just the biggest debt for introducing us. Just instantly fell in love with you. So I'm so excited you're here today.
I think that if we didn't have hard stops in our lives, you and I would have talked all afternoon. It was a great time.
It's true. Well, anybody who knows me knows that it might be a little hard to get off the phone with me.
I know. I have margins. I tried to build some margins, but I was really striving this year to okay, Julie, you really need to honor time. You need to honor people's schedules. You need to be mindful. It's not just you, and maybe they need to go somewhere and do something. So I've really tried. I've been relentless. I've fallen off the wagon a few times, carried out conversations longer. And then I'm like, oh, I got to get back on this program.
Yeah, I feel
it's so hard though. A good conversation and a good connection is so powerful. And it's nurturing, and it nurtures every part of who we are. And that helps us make the next step in our life oftentimes.
Yeah.
All of those are just part of the fiber.
Exactly. I'm a believer, but I'm with you on trying to honor that calendar. Like, do you find that you put things on your calendar and then then I'm just like, well, I'll just move that. I'll just move that thing that I put on there that I said I was going to get done.
Oh my gosh. I did a podcast episode on this topic because I was carrying a task over for 3 weeks. I carried a task over.
Thank God.
Oh no. And then I actually just had like this come to Jesus moment with the task. And I've learned something. This task is either unimportant, or I lack clarity on this task, or it's usually one or the other. And so it's like, you know what, if I'm carrying this task over and if it's really not that important and I can table it for 3 weeks, I probably don't really need to do it. And if I really need to do it, I need to figure it out. And so then I started taking some of those tasks and breaking them down into these micro, finding the clarity.
Break it down, right? Because sometimes you get it on there and it's like, it doesn't seem like a big task, but then if you realize either, like you said, not important, or, oh, it's too big. That's why I'm not.
Oh, it doesn't fit in that 30-minute slot.
Yeah. Let's break that down. What actually needs to happen to make that thing happen? Oh, 5 steps. Maybe let's put step 1 on there, right?
Whoops. I didn't realize that was an 8-hour project that I'm trying to do. Yes. But sometimes we overestimate our abilities.
All the time.
I will say, I do this. And I think, I could just whip out all those social media things. It'll just take 30 minutes. And I'm like, what are you thinking? No.
Oh my gosh. Oh, we are made for each other.
Oh, for sure. And by the way, you're crushing it in the social media space. I love, if you're a listener, you felt all these awesome listeners, they need to make sure they're following you everywhere. I love your content. It's beautiful, but it's also meaningful and authentic. So
wow.
I love it.
Thank you. Oh my goodness.
I know I've been a little bit stocky since we met. I'm like, what's she up to? Ooh.
I've been stalking you too. I see you on your mountain bike all the time. In fact, right before we hit the record button, Julie was just telling a story about an adventure she had. Was it this weekend or was it?
It was. Yes. Yes. It was last Friday. So we try to go do these. Yeah. That was here's the thing about this adventure. So, if Yvonne and I are talking and I do let me be out in the backcountry wilderness where the grizzly bears are and where you can fall off a cliff and die. That's the kind of adventure on
Not
my
just
bike.
Be out there, but let me be out there on my bike.
And maybe I'll have my children with me on this adventure as well. Maybe, maybe not. And so that's my form of adventure. But I will say that is also how I relax, which is really weird to a lot of people, but it clears my mind because I have so many big ideas all the time that being out in that capacity requires complete focus and attention. And so I actually end up having some people meditate in a very quiet, calm way. I am an active, all my ideas, all my clarity comes when it's, intense muscles, I can't breathe, my muscles are hurting, and now I can think.
Wow.
But that ride that we were talking about, it was a breath of humility into my life because it was a Hiawatha trail outside Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And last year, the shuttle driver said 70,000 people rode this ride, and it's downhill. So here I am, this, fit in shape backcountry mountain biker on this tourist trail. And on this day, it's the inclement weather. It was a series of unfortunate events. My son, we were reading, what's the book?
Is it Lemony Snicket? A series?
No, I probably have it near me. The Alchemist. Oh. I don't know if you've read that. The Alchemist is fantastic. And we're listening to the audiobook. My son, who's 12, says, Mom, maybe we should be heeding the omens here. And I'm because they talk about omens in that book. All this to say, here I am amongst these less fit, touristy sort of folks. And I'm the one that's pulling out the space blanket because I'm getting hypothermic. And I'll tell you, looking like a baked potato, I really had to just suck up a lot of humility and say, wow, out of anyone here, I don't think I should be the one that this is narcissistic a little bit. I admit it, but I'm thinking I'm fit, I'm in shape, I'm used to this, I have gear, and I'm the one that is suffering. And it was actually a deeper lesson. If we allow, life has so many deeper lessons for us. And so to be able to look at myself in a humble way and say, wow, look what happened. I have the humility to put the space blanket on.
Yeah. We all need a little smackdown every now and again. I mean, it doesn't feel good. We don't like it, but if you can take that lesson and go forward from there, then good on you.
And that's what I do. You're like this, I notice this in how you carry yourself, across the social platforms. It's just being authentic. There's nothing so special about any of us where it's of course I'm going to have a situation in my life that's going to create an opportunity to grow more humility. Why not? And why not receive that? But it's hard. It's not fun, but it's I'd rather receive this lesson now than have a larger lesson later.
Indeed. That is a great point. I love that idea. Yeah. Cause you could make it really big, or you could be okay, good. That happened. Now I can, oh, what do we take from that? Right. I think it's all about staying curious about yourself and your reaction to things. Maybe.
Oh my goodness. I love curiosity. Well, and that willingness to grow into that next version of yourself, to iterate into the next version of yourself, requires you to be willing to continually grow and continually reflect and to embrace. So often we want to embrace the suffering, the struggle, our worst qualities. We want to cuddle up next to them and just have this intimate relationship. You're my best friend. And it's like, why don't we do that with our successes? Right. So,
Right.
like having a harmony between the two and saying, well, I can struggle over here, but I also can be accomplished in these things, and allowing those to just snowball together.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Okay. So perfect segue into this thing called reinvention that you've done over and over again. Actually, you started way before midlife with reinvention. So I'm going to let you bring us up to your here and now in any way, shape, or form you see fit. Tell us a little bit of your background and where it's brought you to now.
Well, in second grade, actually, that does go to second grade. I wanted to be a writer. It does. I wanted to be a writer, but I didn't have the self-discipline to be a writer. It was too difficult, too challenging, and I didn't have the mindset for it. And that really carried me through a lot of life. So except that I graduated college early, jumped into teaching in the public schools at 22, and, thought I had my life together. I checked all the boxes. I'm a success, graduated early, started my career at 22. Woo, yay me. And life threw some, smackdowns my way, and it was great. When I found myself in real estate at 25, residential. And I've done this, I tell people I have this dual career between real estate and education, because I just go in and out of both of them. And they're both always in my life. They're ever present, which is really exciting, because, the entrepreneurial spirit can come out and everything. But here's the exciting thing that happened in middle age. Well, in my 30s, I started writing. I thought, I can't shake this writing bug. It's been in me. I want to do it. I need to grow this skill base. So that's when I started actually developing this mindset of persistence and discipline and willingness to engage the challenges when things come rather easily. And I think a lot of your audience will relate to this, based off of your guests and everything. I'm thinking, when things come rather easily, you're not used to really having to persist too long, too hard. But really the good things come when we learn how to persist through a challenge and how to overcome. So I find myself back in the public school classroom, and this is in my early 40s. And I had this vision of launching a robotics team for second and third graders.
Wow.
And so I roll out this plan. Yes. So I moved to this from California. I've lived in California and Denver, Colorado. And now I currently live in far north Idaho on the Canadian border. It's a rural, remote town with amazing mountain biking. Come visit me if you want. I'll take you where the bears are. But all this to say, these kids, based on my experience living in a city and suburb, I knew that these kids couldn't be competitive in a global world. Or let me restate that, because I just said a 4-letter word I don't like, which is can't. But, so this is a global world. And if you're raised in a rural setting where you're removed from all of the amenities that cities and suburbs have to offer, that exposure is powerful, especially when you're a child and you're forming. So I roll out this plan, I write grants, I get this equipment, and I created a 3-year plan for this robotics program. Thought, okay, I'm going to teach this. I'm going to learn about it, because I don't know anything about robotics. Let's be real. I had to learn myself. And so it was this gradual program. Well, the first year, this robotics team was, it's a lottery system for second and third grade. And they were invited to the World Show in Houston, Texas, which is literally the opposite end of the country.
Yeah.
We were able to get our students with a parent, because they're second and third graders, right? That's like 8 and 9-year-olds. So we got them fully funded on this trip.
Wow.
And this is when all of my purpose just really came about. So all of those experiences, and you and I were talking, before we began recording, all of the experiences that you collect, that little treasure chest over the decades, all the little tangent experiences, they feed into something so much larger and greater. And so here I am, pulling apart all of these experiences. I have people like, oh, wow, you wrote that really well. What are you, a writer? Oh, well, actually, yeah, I started doing that, like 8 years ago. So you start, developing competence and capability. And I was able to just feed that into my new teaching career, right? Because it was a new one. Well, through that, I learned around the same time, I learned about real estate syndication. And it was like all of my world, Yvonne, every skill that I've curated over my lifetime came together into this whole thing called real estate syndication. I'm like, I don't even know what this is, but this is what I know I'm called to do this. This is me. And it's really exciting when you see the springboard of life. It's like, just, flip you up into the air and say, here, go into the stars. This is all for you.
Wow. Oh my gosh, you're blowing my mind on so many levels. So you launch a robotics program for second and third graders and you don't know anything about robotics. And then you come across real estate syndication. So how did that happen? Okay, I don't even know if we want to go too far into the robotics, but how did you, oh my gosh, just seriously, you blew my mind. How did you get introduced to the real estate syndication? Like what was that introduction?
So the introduction comes, my husband and I, we've been involved in real estate. So I was raised in residential real estate. My husband is a residential broker. And so we had been investing and we decided we wanted something other than single family homes. And we had, some rentals and I had managed them. We sold them and we thought, okay, we're going to use this seed money for something different. And I just got bored. I just looked at my husband after sitting for a year on this seed money. And I'm like, I can't take it anymore. I need that part of me. I'm not just one person. I'm not just wife, mom. Those are roles that I have the luxury of playing and I'm grateful for. But I'm also, all these other facets. And so I'm like, this investor part of me needs to be fed or we're going to have problems. And so he said, you know what? Why don't you start researching what you want to invest in? And so that began this, okay, I will come to this challenge that you're giving me. And through that process, I was listening to different podcasts and I hear Monique Calm describing, she's the first woman I heard on a podcast for real estate also. And she's talking about real estate syndication. And literally, I always say I have a faith testimony and I have a real estate testimony. And I was driving to the gym and I just thought this brings my teaching because there's, a lot of education. Most people, I shouldn't say most. I'd say most people don't know how a syndication works. And so you need to be able
honestly, I don't even know what it is. I'm raising my hand. I'm raising my hand. I'm like, what is real estate syndication? I don't know.
Right. Like,
I'm a
what
total
is this?
Real estate virgin. No idea.
Well, let's just go ahead and take care of that. Well, and so, okay, I'm going to get to that in a second. So I realized like, wow, you need to educate people. And that's what I've spent 13 years in public ed and I've homeschooled kids. I've done a lot of different things and I love teaching people and having those light bulb moments. I love pouring heart into communities and solving problems to help better, the quality of life for residents and communities. So I just saw like this whole world of mine, like everybody wins and the investors win. This is fantastic. So here's real estate syndication. And here's another reason why I love what I do, because some people get really heady and they talk with the terms of the industry and you're kind of lost. Like, I don't know what that is. What does that mean? And so I always say it's like a pizza. So we've all syndicated something at some point in our life and we don't know it's called syndication, like this fancy word. And so, if we've pooled money for a gift, right? Why do we do that? Well, sometimes everybody will chip in to buy a gift and they oftentimes do that because, well, we can buy something with a larger price tag. associated with it and get something, that they might enjoy and appreciate a little bit more. So syndication is just pooling resources together to invest in something larger than you can invest in all on your own.
Okay. All right. I got that.
Was that a pretty good? I'm working on trying to really simplify it.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like my pea brain got that. All right. Keep going.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So, and then through syndication, I end up, being involved in podcasting and launching a podcast. I know nothing about podcasting, but going back to those traits that we develop over our decades, they prepare us for our future. I always say your past prepares you for the present and your present prepares you for the future. And that allows us okay, well, I can persist. I taught myself all these other things. I can learn how to use these programs. I know nothing about podcasting. I know nothing about how these programs work, but I can learn. And sure enough, you end up learning and growing and having an exceptional experience.
Yeah. If there's one thing I've learned from doing the podcast this year, so as you and I speak, tomorrow is the 52nd episode is going to drop, which I'm calling my end of year celebration. It's like I actually launched the podcast on June 9th of 2020, but I'm celebrating my year on June 2nd. And so
I love it.
It's very exciting. So this will all be, in the past by the time people hear this, but one thing I have learned in doing a year of podcasting is that and actually it's what encouraged me to actually take the leap is something I was reading, and I wish I could give somebody credit, tapped me into the idea that it doesn't need to be about the success of the endeavor. It needs to, if you can embrace the idea of who you're going to have to become just to make it happen, just like that grit that you were talking about, that you developed grit to start a writing practice, right? Like that was something that was missing for you before because it didn't come easy. And you said, no, it's important enough to me that I want that. And so I'm going to do that. And I'm going to commit to that. And then who did you become? You became a writer, or someone who writes. Would you say?
I love it. I love it. And you're right that I know, so you and I are very similar in our progression. I'm not too much further ahead on my podcasting journey. I'm a year and a half in roughly. And through that journey, I look at the personal evolution that's taken place and the confidence that you gain. And when you're willing to face the challenges, it's not like here's the thing. We have a choice, right? Right, Yvonne? Like we're going to face challenges.
We can change is the only constant, right? Change is like it's good. Things are going to change around you. We all hate it, but it's happening like shifting sand under your feet all the time. So if you can either embrace it or you can fight it, right? But I'll let you finish. Sorry.
No, conversation. I love it. And well, that change, it's either going to smack us in the face or the challenges that life has. They can either smack us in the face because we were just kind of sitting back on a chair, just trying to check out a little bit, or we can, take some initiative in life and say, you know what, that's going to be challenging for me. Starting a new career is going to be challenging. These new skills will be challenging. Listening to all the naysayers is going to be challenging. But what's the alternative? I can choose the challenge and I can see who the next person inside of me is, or I can let life challenge me and play. I want to play on my terms as much as possible. Let me choose my challenges because I know the next person
inside of me. Did you just say the next person inside of me? Ooh, I like that. Ooh, I like that.
Yes, I'm huge. So my podcast is always centered on mindset on Mondays, and I really have this inclination where we're always evolving and transitioning into another version of ourselves. We're never the same every single day. We're digressing or progressing. We're never staying put. And so don't you ever wonder, after all of those years and all the iterations of ourselves, we can just look and say, wow, I wonder who I'm going to be. Wow, who am I going to be in 5 years from now? And it's not that it's going to be that much of a surprise necessarily, but it's exciting to think that we have this capacity within us. And it's a matter of unlocking it so that we can see that capacity. So I often say, like, I'm looking forward to meeting the next version of myself. Like, she's amazing because she's going to be better than this version. At least I believe she'll be better. There are some bumps along the way. Let's be real.
Right. It's up and down, right? It's like life is gonna, and it's funny. Sometimes you think that maybe you think you're improving and you really aren't, but right. But what's better? What's better anyway? Like somebody, and so again, I wish I could give credit to whoever said this. It's like, it's not about changing yourself. It's about changing how you think about yourself. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is just, that's everything right there. Because it's not that the version of yourself right now is less than or wrong or bad in any way, shape, or form. It's just that it's going to change anyway. How intentional can you be about that change? Like, how much can you take charge of what that change is going to be? So you feel better about it.
I love that. And how are you? Well, I'll use this as an example. I'm really big on morning routines and morning rituals. And my morning ritual has gotten kicked to the curb because now the sun is rising at 4:50 something, which means it's dawn before that. And the sun is setting at 8:30 something. And I need my sunshine and my daylight. And I've just been like wanderlust, like, oh my gosh, I just have to be outside. And I'm allowing.
I love daylight. I love daylight. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so how is it messing with your morning routine? What is your morning routine so you've got earlier sunlight, right? And what is it? It's just beckoning you and you want to go outside?
It is. And I'm also staying up later. So I'm not waking up at my normal time and getting my normal things done. And so I was finding some frustration. It's been 3 weeks now of this. But instead of getting all bent out of shape and frustrated, I've been evaluating it. Why is this taking place? And it's led me to understand there's a change in seasons. There are these different things taking place. And how often do we lock ourselves into a particular version of ourselves and we want to just, okay, this is who I'm going to be. No. It's like, we're not a machine and we have to flex with life and we need to adapt with life and to be kind to ourselves. And so sometimes, all this to say, sometimes I don't think we look at ourselves and we say, I'm not showing up as the best version of myself, but we need to be that version of ourselves in order to see the next part of who we need to become.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It might not be your favorite version of yourself, but that's part of the progress. It's part of the process of growing into the next part of who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. Have you heard of the book or the podcast, either one, I guess, Wintering? Have you heard of that one?
No, I'm writing it down.
Yeah, she's so the idea being that it's seasonal, right? That we have seasons and that those seasons where, let's say you get a little smacked around. That's like a wintering season. Maybe it's time to, and the COVID shutdown probably, there's a qualification for that. We all had to kind of take that step back in our lives and maybe take a step back in our normally scheduled programming to kind of go okay, take the needle off the record for a minute and let's just maybe we'll let that record go around. I'm just making up metaphors right now. I don't know what I'm talking about, but and
I'm following and tracking with you.
Good. But just to take, and so now maybe it's not wintering for you. Maybe it's summering. Maybe you're summering.
I really appreciate that metaphor as well. And I think how often do we learn? I learn a lot. If I'm sitting on a beach, I actually learn a lot. I've had to learn how to relax. But really, so much of our personal growth happens in the challenges of life, but we can't be in a constant state of challenge. It's kind of like market cycles. And I follow cryptocurrency, and it's like you can't be in a constant bull run. Like it gets tired, and everyone needs to rest. If I'm mountain biking, I can't constantly be going uphill. I need to have some downhill. So, but we often don't apply that to ourselves to say, it's okay. I have this challenge, and now I'm going to relax. To be able to receive both of those is really important.
Yeah. Sure is, isn't it? Wow. So your podcast, you focus on the real estate investing, but you also have like the mindset aspect of it, which is so cool. And you've been doing it for a year and a half. What have you learned about yourself in that year and a half?
I have gained, and I would love to hear, what your take is on this also, but I notice how much confidence I've grown through this year and a half. In general, I've been a fairly confident person, and, you can fake it for, if you need to, I've been, at times, but to see the way, even the progression in the podcast, I can hear it. I self-edited for a year, and I still edit my mindset episodes because I just like to. However, it's just neat to see the progression. I got to watch myself evolve. Like, okay, you're becoming more confident. You're able to articulate yourself, more clearly. You're able to engage your guests in a different way. And learning how to draw, and you are natural at this. And your background maybe lends itself well, but you're able to draw things out of your guests. And that's something I really had to learn to do over that year.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you. I just like one-on-one conversations is really what it is. I know. It's just my jam. I really do. Put me in a cocktail party, completely awkward. Don't know what to say.
I cannot imagine this at all.
I could, as you said, you can fake it, right? I can fake it. Right. I can fake my way through a party and all that. But really it takes a lot of my energy to do a big party or a big group gathering or anything like that. I really have to put it out there, and it's not comfortable for me in any way, shape, or form. But a one-on-one conversation, I can go forever. It's like, let's just keep talking.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. What do you wish you had known when you're not teaching anymore, right? As a school teacher. So this is full on. Not. You have fully made the transition. And
yes.
What do you wish you'd known when you made the changeover? Anything?
Wow. I wish I would have believed in myself. And I think a lot of people listening who want to take that step, we all have, I think that most people have this little, something inside of them that just wants to come out. And it's like, come on, let me out. And yes. I wish I would have listened and trusted that intuition sooner and said, I can believe in myself, and I can believe that I can accomplish this. And I believe that even if it doesn't turn out exactly as I plan, it's going to turn out really well. And I think that's the biggest thing that I wish I would have known is just believing believing in myself and believing where the road is going to go is going to be great, because I could not have planned any of the last, couple of years. I could not have planned them out. They've evolved and it's been extraordinary. It's been a challenge, but it's pushed me in crazy ways, but it's been so good. And so when you're willing to like rise to that and to lean into it. And so I did like just kind of cuddle up with, a little bit of like, okay, well, this isn't comfortable. And I'm glad I did. I'm really glad that I snuggled up to the discomfort of, sometimes people say they'll hear your podcast or, I am the person that tends to be the little social butterfly if I'm out at an event. And so I talk, 2 feet deep with a lot of people, whereas my husband will talk, like a mile deep with one person all night. And so,
right.
But
I would be with their husband talking a mile deep.
Exactly. And what you get from that is sometimes people will say, oh, well, that's just so easy for you. And I'm like, this isn't easy for me. I'm pushing myself outside of my comfort zone every single day. But going back, I wish I would have known that I could do that. And that it's okay to take breaks also, and to step back and breathe and rest. So I've had to learn that, like, we can't go full throttle. Yes, I have this like crazy purpose that's really great and I love it, but I need to also be a whole and complete person. And I need to take time to breathe and recalibrate and rest. I think you'll like this. I took a thinking day last week.
You did?
I've never done that.
Tell me more.
Have you done that?
No, I love that though. So tell me more what you do.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I just decided that I needed to take a break, and there's so many ideas and so many opportunities that are valid, wonderful opportunities, but I needed to stay grounded. And by nature of having kids at home and, we all work from home and school from home. And so it's like, I need to get away and I need to be able to just think. So I made a list of everything that I wanted to go through that I thought was important. It's almost like having a board meeting with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard of people doing this and actually getting hotel rooms and going off and being like, you know what, this is my summit. Is that kind of what you did? Did you get a hotel room?
Yes.
You did.
I did not. I didn't, but I decided that I'm going to do this every month. I came back from my day. I went out of town because I can think in my car really well. It's a point of clarity, right? Because you can die if you crash. So there's my focus again. So I drove down to Coeur d'Alene, and I won't lie, I also booked a massage in there.
Good.
And I'm not going to lie. I think that is actually, I told my husband, this is going to be part of my thinking day, but I did it at the end of the day. So the massage should come first because it just like relaxed, and I had even more thoughts after that. So it was really interesting. I highly recommend it. And so I'm going to follow thinking day within action day.
That's so, oh boy, you are onto something.
I don't know about that.
I
don't know.
Something.
I read this.
Yeah.
I run a book club. We just finished A Super Coach by Michael Neal. Really great book. Very interesting perspectives. Highly recommend it because it's a very different perspective than what we normally hear. And he has an action day in there, and basically you have somebody that you check in with, and every hour you check in. And it's none of this is rocket science, but I was
have an accountability partner for the day, huh?
For a day. Yeah. And you knock things out. So I'm like, thinking day and action day should go hand in hand.
I love that. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Holy cannoli. I could talk to you for forever. I think we're going to have to do this again. Oh my goodness. I can't even believe
we're going to do this on my podcast.
Oh, we are.
We're going to do this over on my podcast.
I'm
soon.
so excited. Yes. For that. I'm so excited for that.
I am too.
What are you what's like coming up next that it's all got you all juiced up and ready to go? Like, what are you excited about?
Wow. Well, we launched, my friend Camilla Jeffs and I launched the Impact Investing Network. And this is really like a bigger part of why I love apartment syndication. And so we had this, I started hunting down people basically. And the Impact Investing Network is what came of that. And it was, I saw what happened in California and Denver's Front Range, in Colorado, and the way, particularly, housing, like the workforce housing, people just get disrupted and they get pushed out of markets. They can't afford to live there anymore. And so,
I tell you, I lived in Denver for
issues.
4 years and I loved it. And I would move back there in a heartbeat, but it's crazy expensive now. I cannot even begin to think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. So Impact Housing, the Impact Investing Network, it's people, purpose, profits, planet. And so it's just this alignment between our investments can make money for our investors, but they can also, more importantly, be purpose filled. And I love that. I'm like, this is why I got into the apartment space, because I'm like, wow, you can do something with purpose for the world while earning somebody a return. So someone's same dollar is doing.
Tell me about the purpose. Like, how does that work with the investment? Like, how are you? I can see how excited you are about that. So I want to know more.
So great.
Yeah.
Right. So the purpose is, really, I invest in Huntsville, Alabama, and I can see what's happening. And I'm like, oh, I've witnessed this. What are we going to do for people so they're not pushed out of the margins or into, quality of life is really important. And the type of housing residents have is important to me. And so if we create a blueprint, this is my initial idea, was like, the purpose would be like, can we create a blueprint that any investor can learn, right? There's a teacher in me. Can we just teach other investors how to create a affordable housing type situation? Or it could come in a lot of different packages. They're like hotel conversions. There's so many ways that I'm learning about, achieving this. But can we create a blueprint that investors can follow so that no matter across the globe, they'll be able to implement something. They'll have a strategy that they're able to implement that will solve a problem in a community. And so really the purpose behind it is finding solutions for residents and communities, and lots of alliances that can be made with nonprofits or with local municipalities, and then tying in, like, our environment is important and we do need to be taking care of it. And there are really amazing ways that we can do that as apartment investors by reducing our water use. There are ways to do that is not compromising, the quality of life for our residents. So, like, looking for the situations where, how can we create and knock out the biggest win possible so that anything that we're doing actually matters? It's not just, oh yeah, hey, guess what, Yvonne? I just made, a 20% on my investment last year. It's like, doesn't it feel great to be able to say, you know what, I got great returns on my investment. And I drove by that. I was traveling and I went by this apartment complex, and wow, I get to be part of creating this experience for these residents. I know I'm part of something bigger than myself.
Wow. It's like, phew, I'm fascinated. I'm going to keep following you and seeing where all this goes. That is so exciting to me, because I do, when I think about investments and when I think about how can I take, frankly, I mean, I'm behind, I'm 52 years old and, not ready to retire financially, but also, I mean, frankly, I don't ever want to retire as long as I'm doing something I love. So I want to stay healthy and keep doing things that I love and figuring that out. Right. But in the meantime, we're doing better than we used to. And now I'm like, okay, if we were to invest, how can I do it in a way that's socially responsible, like, and environmentally responsible, and all that stuff. So I love that what you're doing takes that into account. That's beautiful.
It's exciting. And so it lends itself well to educating investors and creating not a mastermind. I'm kind of burnt out on masterminds. So I was talking to, my partner, Camilla, and I'm like, wow, what if we had a think tank? And because really it's an exchange of ideas. So we have ultimately we're creating, and this is like, we just launched this and we've been working on it for 6 months, but we just launched it. And, to create that think tank for people who are already investor minded and they're active. But then what about people like you? You want to, there are people that want to invest in these responsible ways. And so to be able to say, here's this network, here are the people that are making these investments, and you can look at what they have to offer so that you be confident in what you're investing in.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
We
do want this to go global. I love it.
Gosh, good.
Yeah.
I can see why you're excited about it. That's really cool. Oh my goodness.
I know, all because, everyone listening, you have it inside of you. You follow down the rabbit hole. It's absolutely worth it because we have it. We're hardwired with this purpose in us, and it gets suppressed a lot of times in our growing up experiences. And it's time to just peel it all off and find out who you really are.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you so
And the
much.
middle years are the best.
They're
the best time to do it.
This is like so pivotal, this time we're in, to determine what our next 20 years is going to look like. I mean, this is your moment. Yes. This right here, right now. This is your moment. Like, don't wait. Jump in. Both feet.
Yes. I agree.
So how can people find you and all that good stuff?
Yes. Go check out julieholly.com and you can learn about anything I do, from investing to podcasting to book clubs. Anything I'm a part of is all there.
You're a busy lady. Oh my goodness. Thank you for taking the time to be here with me today. It was truly, I got so much out of the conversation. I'm so excited to get this out in the world in front of people. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's just, I love talking with you. So we'll continue it on my podcast next.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, there you have it. I love how Julie embraces change and all the opportunities that life offers us to embrace some humility and take charge of becoming a new version of ourselves. I love that. There's a lot of change that's outside our control, but there's plenty of room within every circumstance for us to take control of how we talk to ourselves and the next action we take. If you want to know more about Julie Holly and listen to her podcast, I'll have that information for you in the show notes. You can just go to latebloomerliving.com/podcast and click on the show notes for episode 58. And before you go, I have a favor to ask. I would love to continue growing the reach of this podcast, and you can help with that. I'd love it if you could take a quick minute right now before you forget to rate the podcast, and please write a review if you're listening in the Apple Podcast app. Or you could share it with a friend you think would enjoy it. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you have a fantastic week. Stay safe and well. Talk soon.